Okay, everyone. Well, thanks to the seventh community hangout this year. It's pretty amazing to see the turnout. And we were just chatting with everyone right before this recording started about how many countries we were seeing. And it seems like it's becoming more international every time. And it's really nice and impressive to see how this community is growing and becoming more active. So yeah, I'm excited to have a really interesting program for you today. Let me just quickly show you what we're going to be talking about. As always, we'll start with a bunch of community updates to let you guys know what's going on in my work specifically. Then we have our product manager, JC, who's going to be taking you some of the recent updates and future updates on his side of the project. I'll be giving an overview of the new job openings. So if you're interested in working for NA10, that's the section to keep an eye out for. Then Oleg from our team is going to be showing you this amazing new thing that we just launched, which is local AI. So now you can be like mindful of privacy, run your own AI instance, and still have all the functionality you used to within NA10. And then community member Jim Lee is going to be showing us how to use the HTTP request tool for AI, which is not the same as the HTTP request node. And give us a couple of examples of AI-powered workflows that he's driven. At that point, I'm going to stop the recording, and then there's space for community chat. So I'm going to put everyone on the screen again, and we can just have a good time, have questions for each other. You can show your work, like anything goes, but it will not be recorded anymore. Okay. All right, so first update. Just yesterday, we had our first meetup here in the Netherlands. We went to Amsterdam, and one of our ambassadors, Tino, helped us set up this event where he works for an organization called Young Creators, and they are related to this co-working space called StartDoc in Amsterdam, which was an amazing location, very close to Central Station, so very easy to reach. Huge building, very much like a maze, like little like stairways and like doors everywhere. But we found it. We started with a couple of drinks. People just chatted a little bit, and then Tino and I gave an introduction of ourselves. He talked a bit about Young Creators, and I explained a little bit about the N8N team because lots of people usually don't really know how big our company is, where we're located, how we work together, etc. So we talked about that a little bit. And then I gave an overview of the focus of the team for the coming 3 months. After that, we went upstairs to the roof terrace, and we had a couple of more drinks and some pizzas, and we left around 7:30 or so. So yeah, so we are now working on this ambassador program, and I'll show you a bit more about that later. And we're really trying to get more of these events launched. We already have another one planned for August that I'll show you as well. And it's really speeding up, and it's really great to see all these people coming in and enjoying these events. There was a lot of conversation there. A lot of people were doing really interesting things using AI, but also non-AI related stuff. There were some companies that we hadn't heard of before who were doing very interesting stuff with N8N as well. And so, yeah, I think it was really good for everyone to just connect and get to know a couple of people. And everyone was really eager to do it again in a couple of months. So it looks like we'll have another meetup in October, November, or so, like something like that. So to give you an idea of all the events that are currently planned, there will be another virtual hangout in Sao Paulo. Our ambassador Luis is going to handle that one, and Luis is also working towards like a physical meetup in Sao Paulo somewhere in August, and details of that will follow shortly as well. Then our own DevRel Max is going to be in San Francisco to speak at an event next week, and we decided to throw a little dinner for our community there. So if you're from that area, you can still sign up and come meet us on July the 23rd for a nice meal together. The group is like 10 people or something like that. So it's going to be very, very nice, have a chance to talk to each other, etc. Then, excuse me, Berlin, end of August, is another community meetup run by one of our ambassadors. It's pretty close to our office, and so I expect quite a few team members to make it there. Jan, our founder, already committed to coming over there, and you'll probably like say a few words as well. So it's a great opportunity to learn anything you want about N8N. We're pretty transparent about anything. And then a day later, while I'm still in Berlin, because I'm going to be joining it, we're going to do another community hangout from the office, live with Max or with more people from the team. We don't really know yet. It's going to be really fun and interactive. And that one's going to be another workflow showcase. And so that means you can, we did that in May as well, but it didn't really have a lot of time to prepare. This time you will have more time to submit your suggestion and work on a presentation of a fun, crazy, weird project you worked on. Like we're really looking for the interesting cases, right? Where we can like have a laugh or be amazed that you can actually do that kind of thing with N8N as well. So if you're interested in any of these, head over to n8n.io/community/events, and you can click on any of them and find out more information and register for them as well. And you'll receive updates and reminders as well. Right. So one more word about the ambassador program. On the right, you see all our current ambassadors. We have 9 people helping us right now. A couple in the US. There's someone in Poland, in the Netherlands, obviously, Argentina, not Argentina, Brazil, sorry, and in Switzerland. And I'm in the process of onboarding a couple more. If you are experienced with N8N, if you're excited to work with community members, if you have experience setting up events, and events can be small too, right? Like meeting 5 people for coffee and chat about N8N is totally great. And you live in North America or Europe, that's kind of our focus area right now. Please get in touch with me. And especially if you live in London or Paris, those are the areas that I'm focusing on extra right now. If that's something that you think is interesting, head over to n8n.io/ambassadors for more information and like how to get in touch, etc. Okay. Quick update on the tutorial hub that we announced 2 months ago. We already have over 70 tutorials, mostly in English. There's a couple in French, but you can add any kind of language that you want. It's becoming a really nice library of educational material for N8N. And I would like to encourage you to submit your own material. Right now, I'm still like looking over YouTube and inviting people, but I'm hoping to get to a point where people will add them automatically because it's a great place to share your knowledge as well. Head over to the forum. There's a little tab on the left that says tutorials, and you can see the entire library there. So I hope you will enjoy that. Okay, at this point, I need to refresh my screen, but I don't think there's any questions yet, right? Unless someone wants to speak out now. No. And don't worry, you can still ask them later as well. That would be fine.
I think a few people were asking about events in other regions like Morocco and Istanbul.
Yeah, I am. So when I say I focus on North America and Europe, that means that I'm actively trying. I am actively trying to find ambassadors there. If you are in another area where we have other users, I'm more than happy to support you as well. So just reach out to me anyway, and we'll find a way to work with you. Any other questions, Luis?
No, any other questions.
Okay, awesome. JC, that means the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Bart. Well, firstly, so cool to see so many of you here. I see we just hit 100 in terms of participants, so that's really cool. And I'm looking forward to someone who's also based in the UK to more meetups, particularly in London. I'll definitely be joining that one. So in terms of just a quick hello from me, if you want to jump on to the next slide. I'm Jonathan. I'm one of the product managers here at N8N, and I'm probably better known internally as JC due to there being another John in the team. And I've been with N8N for about a year now, and my focus is very much on the enterprise side of the product. So really about building out a lot of our paid features, particularly for larger teams and sort of growing the tool for that type of usage. And so today I wanted to share a little bit more from what my team's been working on, some of the things that we've released recently, particularly around projects that have come out quite recently. Also some updates just on some additions we've made to existing features. And then also I wanted to just a bit of a shout out to a feature called custom execution data, which isn't new, but it's something I feel is kind of underutilized. I really wanted to get on everyone's radar as something that's a really cool thing to use going forwards. So firstly, in terms of projects, For those who have recently updated to a version of 1.4.3 or above, you've probably seen a fairly significant change to the structure of N8N instances. And most of you will be seeing a new home area. And in a lot of ways, this replicates what we had previously, which is that it basically shows you all the workflows and credentials that you have access to across an instance. But we also have quite big plans for this area in terms of it becoming probably more of a sort of dashboard area in the future, where it's your sort of go-to space for your kind of own personal stuff, but also a dashboard view of things that you might need to be aware of, or sort of top-level metrics. So really, it's kind of laying the foundations for future work there. But what it's kind of opened up for is you'll see on the left that we've now created this new area where you can create what's called projects. And you'll see in my screenshot there, it's a little bit small, but you can see I've created some projects like support, product, security, and so on. And the idea behind this is that you can now basically create kind of isolated areas where you can invite various team members into them and obviously control exactly what they have access to within those. And so firstly, it's about kind of organizing your workflows and credentials inside those areas. But importantly for us, it's also about extending the sharing mechanisms that we have in place. So up until now, we've had individual sharing across instances where obviously you would share a workflow on a one-to-one basis and then keep having to expand that. Whereas with projects, you can invite members into that and they will get access and inherit access to everything that's in there. So it really smooths out the process of making sure that people have access to the things they should, that currently exist, and also things that get added later on. And then within projects, we've introduced some new roles. So earlier in the year, we actually introduced a new instance level role for kind of like a super admin, so that you had more people who could manage things at the instance level, such as setting up users and obviously features. But at the project levels, we've also introduced some new roles, such as admins and editors, who obviously can manage things within a specific project. So, and there's going to be lots more coming on that. So we've kind of got that foundational layer in place for projects and organizing workflows in that way. And then in terms of what's coming next to this, because it's really kind of early stages for us, on the next slide, we also are now looking at adding some things pretty imminently to this. First and foremost, we're going to be adding more roles to projects. So right now, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we've heard around this is we have quite a few roles now, but all of them give access to people to be able to change things and edit and update and so on. And what we've been lacking is a viewer, a sort of read-only style role, so that you could potentially expand the number of people who have access to things for visibility and obviously learning and seeing what other teams might be doing, but not necessarily giving them access to actually change things or potentially inadvertently break something. So we'll be adding that soon. We're also looking at sharing credentials across projects because we see the need for this to scale really well, that you could actually potentially create kind of a global project with all your credentials in and then share them out to projects that you need. And that obviously gives you a lot more visibility into terms of what people have access to, and if you need to update that or take that access away and so on. And then we're also going to look at things like project level variables. So variables is something that's used quite a lot, quite heavily, but one limitation right now is that they're always global. And so we want to bring that into the project level so you can set those up and configure them kind of isolated to your team, and then obviously not worry about others potentially changing those or being able to see the variables that you use. And then the final thing I wanted to mention, which is kind of, I guess, the elephant in the room in terms of what we hear a lot from the community side of things, is really what this means for folders, because it's certainly not the intention that whilst projects is focused on the paid side of things, on paid plans and enterprise, it really is about laying the foundation so that we can then look at things like folders to bring to everyone ultimately. And it's not that we're bringing projects out in replace of folders, it's more about that work needed to happen first so that we can then figure out the best way to actually slot the likes of folders into that. And whilst I can't sort of guarantee we're going to be looking at folders next week, it's really to highlight that this is very much on the radar. And I would like to think that sooner rather than later, we will be bringing this kind of functionality to everyone soon, so that there is some improvements there, because I know that where you have lots of workflows, that's something that we want to make a lot easier for you. So it's a bit of a coming soon, but just to kind of flag that it's very much still on the radar on the project side of things. So yeah, lots coming there with regards to kind of projects and advanced permissions. In terms of other things, just to give a quick update on, for those who aren't too familiar with external secret stores, we also have within N8N the ability to use a third-party external secret store where you can manage all of your kind of sensitive credentials outside of N8N. And this really has kind of like two benefits. One is an extra layer of security in that N8N is not having to physically store your credentials. But most importantly, this is also that it gives you a central place to manage your credentials that you can kind of rotate and update and maintain in one place, and call this back into N8N rather than having to go and update lots of things within the N8N world if things need to change. And the main update there is that we've now added probably two of the sort of most well-known external secret stores in AWS Secrets Manager, and also hot off the press is Azure Key Vault, which is coming, I think, probably in the release next week, most likely. So that's coming very soon. And I suspect we'll look at Google shortly after that too. And then finally, just one thing that I wanted to give a shout out, which isn't a new feature, it's been in place for a long time, is something called custom execution data. And for those who haven't seen this or used this yet, this really is about some extra functionality where you can pass additional metadata into executions. And you can do that either via the code node in a code format, or you can actually do it through the execution data node. And the reason I really like this feature, and the reason it comes up a lot, is because firstly, what this does is it gives you basically an extra custom filter, and you can create lots of custom filters that you can then sort of streamline your execution list views to really, find the things that you need, especially when you have a high volume of executions. But most importantly, what this is really useful for is actually debugging across workflows. So if you have multiple workflows and you need to find something across all of those, setting up this custom execution data means that you can pass in that metadata and then really easy filter down and see, where you might need to find a certain problem or where a data point is coming in that is causing issues. So if you go on to the final slide, but you'll see here is a really simple example where I've got an email address. I know that it's being used across multiple workflows. And by using this feature, I can then store it. And then when I view the executions view, I can easily jump to this and just see, maybe I jump into one of these workflows and see exactly what's happening and maybe address any issues that I find. So worth checking out and a really, really powerful feature. But yeah, I think that's probably everything from me in terms of kind of on the sort of enterprise side of things. And Bart, I'm not sure any specific questions.
Yeah, there are questions. I always need to jump out of my presentation and back in for it to update. So yeah, it looks like we have two questions. One is from Liam, who wants to know if projects will be fully available for community as well.
Yeah, so currently that's not the case. They are on our pay plans from ramping up from starter through to pro and then obviously enterprise. And I think at the moment, what's most likely is some addition to those that will be a lighter form that we definitely want to bring community related to folders in some sort. So that's where we'd be heading initially to add on the community side.
Thanks. And Priya is interested in hearing if self-hosted paid plans are available for individuals or freelancers or consultants. Not necessarily related to your topic, I feel, but
yeah, I think I'm not sure who best to answer this one, but currently the self-hosted plan we have is in the enterprise format. So I don't think that's necessarily exactly what you'd be looking for here, but there are also a few other plans to do with if you're sort of an early stage startup that could be an option. But at the moment, the option would be the cloud pay plans in terms of individual freelance consultants, I think. I'm not sure.
I think you can upgrade your self-hosted with other licenses too, right? Like with Pro or...
No, actually,
no?
I don't think you can. No, you can with enterprise. We did previously have a team plan that you could in the past.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, let me just check. No, that's all. Luis, no further questions?
Other questions, but outside of
okay.
JC presentation, so we can answer on the chat.
Brilliant. Well, JC, thanks for your updates and thanks for popping in here. Hope to see you again soon.
Great, thank you.
Okay, bye. Okay, so last update from my side is on the jobs. And so I checked this week. We have 4 new positions available. One is a new lead technical writer. Our previous lead has found another challenge to go to, and our docs definitely need a lot of attention and continued attention as well. So we need someone who's very well versed in writing this kind of information and keeping it updated. Then we are looking for 2 more product managers. They are, for integrations and for AI. And finally, a solutions engineer. So if you're interested in any of those roles, please have a look at n8n.io/careers, and you can find all the information there that you need. Apologies for that. Okay, so let's get to the main part of this Hangout then, our new local AI support. And we have with us here Oleg, who's one of our engineers on the AI team, who can show us how to install and use this new feature. Oleg, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi everyone. In a moment, I'm going to share my screen, but I think you need to stop sharing yours. There we go.
You're good.
This. You see the canvas, right?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, I'm going to tell you about how you can run local AI in N8N. What are some of the available ways? We're going to show 3 ways if we have time, starting with the most convenient or the simplest one to somewhat more robust one. You might be wondering, why would you even want to do this, to run AI locally, or not necessarily even locally, but to run it on your own hardware, either the open source models or the models you train. And the big advantage of that, obviously, the privacy reasons. So you might not want to share your data with some other providers like OpenAI or Anthropic, whatnot. You want to keep it offline or local. Another reason could be cost effectiveness, because it might be more cost effective for you uh, to to do your processing on your own hardware rather than paying for all the tokens. As mentioned, there's 3 ways you can, well, not 3, but the 3 ways I'm going to show you today how to run them. First, very simple way is using some OpenAI API analog. So one example would be this app called LM Studio or some other similar app, which gives you an API that you can use that is very similar to OpenAI API, but you can download open source models and host them. So for example, here I'm having Meta Llama 3 model loaded. There's this local server that I can start that will give me an URL, you can see here. And then I can take this URL and go into the OpenAI node. So we would be using the OpenAI node, maybe the chat model. And in OpenAI node, we have this option called base, oops, sorry, not OpenAI yet. OpenAI node, base URL. So this option would allow you to override the API endpoint to which we're sending the request to process your completion. So I can do I'm going to put host docker.internal, which would be the IP address of my machine. But because I'm running N8N in Docker, I need to reference it in this way. And now I should be able to, well, we can select some credentials, but for this, it doesn't matter because the LM Studio doesn't require me to set up a credential. It just so that the credential doesn't complain. Now, if we refresh it, we should be seeing the models that are available from the LM Studio. So right now, there's only 2. The first one being the Meta Llama model, which is the chat model, and another one is the embedded model. So if I would select the chat one, I can say, hello, who are you? And we should see some logs as it's doing the processing. And eventually it should finish. There we go. And it's telling me that it's doing great. We can do the same thing for embedding. So again, there's this base URL that we can change, and then we'll be able to use the model that from LM Studio. Another way that you can run local models is to use Ollama. So Ollama is a wrapper around Llama CCP. So it allows you to also download the models and to do the inference for you. As Bart mentioned, we've prepared this Docker Compose file and a repository that you can use, which has all of this already set up. Looks like this. So if we take a look at the Docker Compose, and it basically set up the N8N for you with the Postgres. So that's what's happening here at this service. And it downloads the Ollama latest version. It binds the volume to it, and it also setups the quadrant for storing your vector store embeddings. There's two profiles you can run this with. So you can run it either with the CPU profile, or you can run it with the GPU NVIDIA profile that would allow to utilize your GPU to do the inference. So it would be much quicker, but it's not required to have a GPU. So I already have it running here. Stop it and do again. You would start it like this. Docker compose profile CPU up. This would start all the required services, as we see. So now the n8n is running again. And then if you would like to download the models, you would have to SSH into the container. So docker exec Ollama bin bash. That would give you the access to Ollama CLI. So you can do Ollama list to see the list of available models. And if you would like to pull a model, you would just do Ollama pull. You can select some model from here, for example, Mistral. And now it will be downloading the model. Once model is downloaded, you will see it in the list. I'm not going to download it right now because I already have a few models that we can use. I'm going to stop it. And I'm going to show you how you can use the Ollama node to do some stuff. So here we had our OpenAI chat. We can remove that now. And what we can do is, let's say we wanna describe an image using the open source model. So I'm going to connect an Ollama node here, Ollama chat model. I'm gonna select in the credential. So in the credential, you just need to provide the URL. You see here that it's just Ollama, and that is again because we're using Docker, so we can use the name of the containers rather than their IP. You see here, the container name is Ollama. So when we're referencing these containers between themselves inside the Docker network, we can just say Ollama. And this is the port that Ollama is running on. You see that the connection tested successfully. It gives me the list of models. As we said, we're going to use image detection or feature detection model. So that would be Lava Llama 3. We don't have to mess with any of the settings, although there's plenty of, if you need to, for example, to keep the model loaded in the GPU for more than 5 minutes, there's a way to configure that. The temperature, well, you can check temperature a bit. And now we can send it a file. So we recently released a new feature called file uploads. So now in the chat trigger, there's an option to allow file uploads. This is available both for the development chat and also when you make it publicly available. So I'm going to toggle this. I'm going to set it on only one image. And then we need to pass the image. So you see in the prompt, we're taking everything from the previous node, but that wouldn't include the binary file. For that, I just need to add another message, which would only contain the binary file. So message type binary, the field in which the binary is going to be, and the image details is not important for this model. Then if we go into the chat, we see there's a option now to add files. We can select this image. We can ask what is on the image. You see that there's stuff happening in the background as it's processing the image. Oh, that was quite quick, is that correct? In fact, it is a large clock mounted on the side of the building. So this is the astronomical clock from Prague, Orloj. Maybe it could be a bit more creative. We Well, it's not wrong. It ask it. Let's say this. There you go. So it correctly was able to tell me the city.
Oleg, but the
another
file is called Prague as well, huh? So
yeah, but it doesn't know about the
are
file
you sure
name.
it's not cheating? No? Okay. Very cool.
We get this. No, sorry, I promise you it doesn't know about the file
Just
name.
messing with you. Yeah.
I know. So this Docker setup also contains Quadrant, and Quadrant is a vector store provider. They have an open source version. We can see it here. The UI, it started on port 6333. And we can see collections here. Maybe let me delete this one, and we can populate some new collection. So another use case we might want to do is, the classic chat with the PDF or ask questions about PDF. So let's set that up really quick. We're going to keep the chat trigger, but now we're going to add the Quadrant vector store. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to take the binary data from the chat input, assuming it's a document. We're going to chunk this document and populate the vector store with it. And then we pass it the user prompt to an agent which has an access to this to a vector store tool that allows it to query this vector store that we just populated, and then based on this it should provide us an answer. So let's go ahead and set that up. I'm going to be using the Quadrant vector store. Here you can see again that we're referencing the Docker container. We don't have an API key set up, so we can leave this one empty. For the Quadrant collection, we can put it statically, or we can just use, for example, the session ID from the chat. Sorry, so that different users could have different sessions, basically. So we need to change the operation mode to insert documents, like so. Then we can connect it, and we can insert the session ID as a Quadrant collection. We don't need any options right now. Then for the embeddings, we would connect Olama embeddings here. Select the credentials. That would give us all the models that we have. And let's use this MX by embed large model. Then we need to chunk the document. So for that, we would connect the data loader, change the type of data to binary, because we're going to be uploading files. We say that we want to load all of the data that we get as binary, connected text token text splitter. We know that this embeddings models has a context window of 724 tokens. So we don't want to go above that. So let's say we keep the chunk size to 650 and chunk overlap to 50 tokens. That would populate the vector store. We can see if that indeed works. So, I have this setting that I only allow images right now. So we changed it to, actually, we don't need to set it. We can just accept everything for this session. Then we have a Bitcoin white paper that we can upload. Can ask, what is the size of the BTC block header? This is not going to work yet. We just want to test that this is indeed populating the vector store, and that seems to be happening. So if we go to the Quadrant UI, we can check that a new collection has been created with the session ID here, and it contains the chunked content. It also has some metadata, but that's not really important right now. Okay, we can go ahead and set up the other part of it. So now that we have this in the vector store, we want to add an agent. So for the Olama, the tools agent is not yet supported because Olama until yesterday didn't support function calling, but now it's got, or yesterday it got merged. So in the upcoming week, it should be also available. That increase the capabilities of it, but right now we need to use the conversational agent. We take the prompt, we need to define the prompt, find it below, because the previous node is no longer chat, it's this quadrant vector store. So we go into the schema from our chat and input the chat input. But the options, we'll leave it empty. One important thing to change here, because you can see that there's 10 items, but so that would mean that this agent would be executed 10 times, which is not something we want to do. So we can go into settings and only execute once, like so. Then we can connect it some model, like Llama chat model. Here, local, we use Llama 3. Maybe decrease the temperature a bit again. And now we need to give it access to this tool. So we have a vector store tool. We need to name it. Yeah, it's very simple. And we said that we want to retrieve four chunks from the vector store. Then we need to connect the actual vector store. So we know that we have it in quadrant. This is already set up. We just need to set up the collection. And to set up the collection, we again need to use the same session ID as we used here. So if we go inside, we go mapping, select the chat, JSON, and session ID. So this should match what we have here in the UI. No options here. That should connect the vector store. We connect the same embedding Llama model as we used for the chunking. That is quite important, to use the same model for the retrieval as you've used for the populating the vector store. Otherwise, the tokenization method would be different and the scores wouldn't make much sense, or they wouldn't be comparable. We also need to connect the model for the vector store tool, because the way it works is that it retrieves these chunks from the vector store. Then there is a model that answers based on the query, and that answer is going to get passed to our agent. So I can just copy this one, connect it. So it's using the same Llama model as for the agent. This one, we want to make it really deterministic. So we send the temperature to 0 to reduce the hallucinations as much as possible. So we can be somewhat sure that it's only answering based on the chunks and it's not making stuff up. Now we have it connected like this and should be able to execute this agent. And it tells me that the size of the Bitcoin block header is 80 bytes, which is correct. We can take a look at the logs to see how it got that answer. So first we see this in this Llama chat model that there's this classic conversational agent prompt. It executed the tool user file knowledge base, asked what is the size of the BTC block header. Then that tool responded with the size of the Bitcoin block header is 80 bytes, based on these. Why don't we see it in execution? We should be seeing the individual chunks in the vector from the vector store. Not sure why they're not showing here. Something we need to look into. Oh yeah, but you can see it here as it's getting passed to this LLM. that these are the chunks from our vector store. So it retrieved 4 chunks, they got passed here, and then the vector store LLM was able to provide this answer, which is a bit more detailed. And then our agent LLM just answered in a more simple way exactly what we asked. That is that the size is 80 bytes. Yeah, and then maybe the final method that I can show you to host these models would be to do it on some rented GPU. So I have a pod set up using runpod.io, which allows you to rent GPU VPS servers to run your models on. So we can, the way I've created this, I just went to deploy the RTX 4090. You can see the price per hour and the available resources. So I would select the GPU. I would change the template, or I would set the template to PyTorch 2.1. Edit template, you need to expose the Ollama port. So this is the Ollama port again. So you would expose it like this. You might want to increase the volume disk a bit to be able to store the models. And then you would go into the environment variables and you would add a llama host to 0 to make sure it gets it's binds to the URL that we would be using. I already have this pod set up, so I can just start it again because it also contains a model that I downloaded, so we don't have to wait. I start a pod. Let's see it running hopefully in a bit. We can connect to it via the web terminal. Seems like Ollama is not installed, so I'm just going to install it again. Okay, now the Ollama is installed, and it's running on localhost on this port. Now we can do Ollama. There's the model, okay. Then we need to quickly fetch. Let's try Mistral. Okay, so now I fetched the model, so we can now access it. And to access it, we would use this URL and see that this list of models. We can copy that to N8N here. Maybe not for this workflow, let's just disable that one. Add a new basic LLM chain. We add the new credentials, the base URL being this one. See it connected successfully. And there's the model that we just downloaded. And we can talk to it, so we can execute this. And we got a response, large language model trained by Mistral AI. And that is coming from our pod. You see it was significantly quicker than running it on my local machine, because we are using a GPU now, RTX 4090. I'm going to share the link for this Docker Compose file and how you can run it after the session. So Bart is probably going to send it over. That should get you started with local AI and using Olama in anytime. And that's it from my side. Thank you
Thanks,
for your
Oleg.
attention. And if you have any questions, please share them.
Brilliant. Just as Oleg mentioned, I will add the link to the video as I publish it early next week. Maybe for now, Oleg, you could post it in the chat so everyone has immediate access to it. And I imagine you can also just go to our GitHub repository and find it there, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. So let's go back to my slides and see what the questions are. I need to pop out again. And I'll speed up a little bit because we're going, might be going a little over our time. McNaveen wants to know if you can split paragraphs into chunks. I think that is what you just covered, right? So does this need more answering or?
Is it possible to split longer? Yeah. So you would set up one of the text splitters that we have. I've used the token splitter, which would be static based on the amount of tokens. But there's also an recursive text splitter, which would allow you to split on some conditions like paragraphs or some markdown headlines, for example, and so
on. Thomas wants to know the specs of your Mac that you're running this on.
So I have Apple Silicon M2. I think I have 64 gigabytes of RAM. But for these models, the Llama 3 model I used, it was 8 billion parameter model. So if you run it in the F8 quants, then the 8 gigabytes of RAM should be enough. And if you want to run it on GPU, then maybe 16 gigabits of VRAM would be ideal.
Thank you. And you showed Quadrant as your vector store a couple of times. Is that like a preference from us, or can you use any vector store that you want?
You can use any vector store that you want. For this use case, even the in-memory vector store would be nice because we don't care much about preserving it in the like a long term, because we just use it to answer the user's question. So the in-memory vector store would be fine. I also like to use Supabase vector stores because then you can also have your database there and they have support for files, but Quadrant is also a good option.
Brilliant, thanks. Next, this is a long one. I need to read that, sorry. Sean wants to know about embedding. If I use an OpenAI embedding model to create embeddings for our user profiles a few months ago, and it's now been sunset and replaced by their 4.0 model, does that mean that those embeddings are no longer compatible for retrieval? Just wondering if these previously embedded records are being ignored now, or if it's because it's still OpenAI, it's backwards compatible.
So I think the 4.0 model, that's not an embeddings model. They semi-recently released like this text small embeddings model. But either way, you would need to run the embeddings or re-embed the content again because as I mentioned, the tokenization method always changed, so it's not comparable. So the results you would get, the scores wouldn't be very high.
Sorry, I'll just chime in just real quick. I think it's easier this way. So I had received an email from them that said the recommendation was that you move from their 16K embedding thing to 4.0. Like they said they were sunsetting the old thing and that they were moving everyone to that, which I did. And now I'm just curious if like that makes all of those old records where I already did the embeddings on them, are those no longer being retrieved in the system? It sounds like yes is the answer to that question. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So they are being retrieved probably. You would still see some chunks that you would get, but it's just that the score would be very low, so there's no guarantee that those chunks are really relevant.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, just checking. Yep, that's the last question. If you have any others, we can chat about it later, right? Thanks, Oleg. That was very comprehensive, and it was really great to see all the different methods that we have available. Please remember to share that link if you haven't already, and I'll make sure it gets shared out next week as well. All right, then, on to our next parts. This is community member Jim Lee, who's been contributing a lot of great quality tutorials as well as templates for us lately. And today he's going to be talking about HTTP tools and how they are not the same as the HTTP request node. Jim, are you ready?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Thanks, Bart. Thanks, Oleg. Amazing demo. I don't think I can. Well, that's a completely hard act to follow, but I'll do my best in this one. Right. Hey, everyone. My name is Jib. Today, I'm going to talk about the HTTP request tool. So this is a new tool that's come out. Bart is going to help me slide through. Next one. So yeah, so the HTTP request tool is a new tool which was released just shy of a month ago. So in release 1.47. So definitely upgrade if you haven't already. And it's sort of exclusively used in AI agents. Now, this tool, like Bart said, it's not the HTTP request node that we're all familiar with, that we use for kind of a lot of things. It's more of a younger sibling. That's how I would describe it. Still very same functionality, just maybe it's got a few bits and pieces that aren't quite there or identical, but we'll come to that later. Right. So as kind of one of the tools, if you're not familiar with agents or tools, AI agents are particular in that they are the AI models, but they have these functionalities that you can use to extend them. So for example, the calculator is one way that an agent or an AI model can do maths, right? Just gives it the numbers and calculate gives it back. Similar, the HTTP tool allows the agent to make HTTP requests, right? But agents which kind of, or AI models which connect to the internet isn't really a new thing, right? So why in particular did NNN kind of come up with this tool, in my opinion? And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. So it connects to the internet, so what, right? I'm glad you all asked. Basically, it means that the HTTP request tool enables any, and I would probably say every API, it makes every kind of API into an agent tool. Super powerful stuff. So that means, yeah, it just gives you the freedom to connect your favorite services, maybe business critical services directly to the agent for it to kind of perform a lot of stuff. And I think it's super smart because if you imagine if NNN went and said, yeah, we're going to make a tool for every service out there, it will take them literally a million years, shy, a couple of centuries. But yeah, it would just take an incredibly long time. This tool just gives you the freedom to kind of bring them in today, into your kind of AI workflows today, makes them super, super powerful. So that's kind of like, I feel like one of the big game changing features or functionality that this tool brings. The second one, if we go to the next slide. Sorry, sorry, Bart, I reordered before you copied them. Sorry about that. I did say I was going to resist, but okay. Anyway.
Should I go to the next one? Is that better?
Yeah, okay, if we go to the next one. Yeah, sorry. So the second game-changing feature is that this tool, if you, like me, have built a lot of agent tools or sort of tried to extend with HTTP, these agents in the past, you'd notice you had to create this kind of custom workflow tool with a lot of subnodes, with a lot of sub workflow, and it kind of got a little bit big, right? So with this HTTP request tool, in some cases, especially like with this web scraper example that I found in the templates library, you can bring it down literally from 10 nodes down to 1. That is an amazing, amazing feature. And I'll go through how that works and how you can, and how that's possible in probably next slide. If we jump back a little bit, Bart, to the previous slide. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not this one. Yeah, this one. Right. So breakdown, very quick. The tool is super familiar interface with the HTTP node. Yeah, just big brain move from NNN team to kind of keep it the same. So it's kind of very familiar, very easy to kind of onboard. I love one of my favorite things about NNN is credentials, how the credentials are handled. So super easy, just kind of click, select the ones you want. Another kind of super smart thing is these placeholder variables. So this is a new sort of concept, and where we had tools previously where the agent was determining the body values, the params in the body, it can now do, in the path, variables in the path, variables in the headers, incredible stuff that it just kind of knows how to configure, not only kind of pass the variables, but also configure the endpoints as well to kind of make those requests. Super smart move, again, is the response formatting. So this optimized response option you have at the bottom means that even though you're kind of making that request, getting API results, you can define sort of a subsection of that response to bring back, right? So you're optimizing for your token limit. So you're not kind of getting, you can get only the fields you want or which are relevant to the request. Where some APIs, they're very verbose and they give all this extra information, you can cut that out. So super, super simple. I think previously you would have 2 nodes to do this job. So one to handle the post request payload. But in this tool, you've got them all in the same node, which is fantastic. Now, some of the things that this tool doesn't do is what I found anyway, binaries. So if you're fetching a PDF with this tool, it's going to bring back a binary. The agent's not going to be able to parse it, or there isn't a step to kind of pass that into text for the agent. So to watch out for that. Pagination. So if you need to kind of go through a few pages or get like tokens to get the offset to get to the next request, that's not really handled in this tool as well. So it's kind of designed for, make a request, get the response, no pagination. And lastly, what I found is you can't chain API requests. So if you needed one API request to kind of call another, there's no kind of chaining going on. So so that's kind of not really what's designed for. Now, remember, this tool has only been around for 18 days, maybe. No, not 18 days, just, sorry, a month, sorry. So there's no telling like what the NNTM team with sufficient feedback, what they could do to improve it. So definitely, start using it and contributing your feedback to that. So if we go to the next slide, but so after using the tool for a month, so my recommendation straight off the bat, first choice for agent tools connecting to services and APIs. And I would definitely recommend it over the old way. We would have traditionally done it, which is like the custom workflow tool. You create like a mini root router to sort of figure out what you want to do there. This makes it so much simpler. Just kind of reduction of nodes is just a joy to work with. And lastly, obviously, custom code you kind of want to avoid generally, harder to maintain. But if you have to, that's also an option. Probably just kind of a note to, even though like this tool now exists, there's no rush to refactor all your past workflows. I would say if it works, if your custom workflow tool works, just leave it, unless you really hate it, the way you've done it. Feel free to sort of upgrade. But I mean, all these tools, all these kind of approaches are valid. It really depends on your use case. Next slide. Right. So I'm going to jump into a few quick examples. This one is a very common use case or use scenario that I've seen when people kind of create chatbots. And this is an appointment scheduling chatbot, particularly with one API service, which is cal.com, which is a calendar or appointment booking service. Wow, look at this. What are we seeing here? We are seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nodes, really, to kind of create this really capable booking agent. It gets availability, schedules appointment, it can reschedule it, it can cancel appointments. If you told me if you told me same time last year that we could build something like this with just this many nodes, I'd be shocked. But now we have it today, so you can do it, right? So super easy to work with. Not overwhelming. That's what I find with creating a lot of these agent tools is, once you have to get the subnodes in, it gets a little bit overwhelming with the amount of nodes you have to put in. And, possibly if you decide to choose another service, you will need to refactor, right? You need to kind of change it. And it's always a drag when you're into that situations. With this, you just knock the node out and you just replace it with another HTTP tool, which is fantastic. We're going to run very quickly into a video. I'm just going to talk through this. So again, this is the whole workflow to enable this kind of agent. I'm going to open the chat now, and I'm just going to type in, sorry for the potato quality, by the way. So chat, type in that, I'm looking for an appointment. It's going to go through the rounds, going to ask my name. And then, yeah, it's going to ask me for a preferred time and date. Now, when I type in my preferred time and date, it's going to make a HTTP request to the availability API in my cow.com account. Which, let me just finish this text. And it's making a request call, and boom, right? It's brought us back into the agent. Now, again, it's just one node. It's made a request, it's come back as tools. Really, really simple, very powerful feature that we wanted one node to kind of enable, which is great. So now I can confirm my kind of availability, and then boom, we're done. Again, super, super powerful stuff that the NNA team have enabled with this node. Simplified workflows, they're not going to take a lot to maintain. You can experiment, gives you that freedom, that creativity to kind of experiment with different services. Super, super powerful stuff. Right, next example. Oh, sorry, yeah. So this is so again, just these 4 nodes. I mean, it's always the rescheduling, you continue the conversation, rescheduling, you can cancel the appointment. Again, these are just API calls, and the agent is smart enough to kind of work out kind of the rest. So next example. Now, there is no videos after this. Is the only video. Yeah. So how we did it was, in the HTTP request node, there's the endpoint. We just put the tool description and the endpoint you want. So this one shows the scheduling appointment, which is like the bookings API. Again, credentials. I loved how the credentials work. You just put it as you would in the HTTP request node. The placeholder definitions is how you get the agent to fill in the dynamic variables. And you can define them like this. So it's very kind of organized. And you can define, so here I've got session ID, schedule starts, in the inquiry, schedule end. And finally, in the right-hand side is the optimized response. So what I'm saying is I've toggled it on. I'm expecting the response to be JSON. I want to get out the selected fields, which is ID, start time, end time, and status. So again, that's how I reduce the amount of tokens that come back to the agent, so the agent can not hit that limit. So very, very simple kind of interface to work with. Next example is, so previously we saw an agent hitting all APIs of one service. We could do a more powerful way of bringing in lots of services, multiple services into the agent. So you imagine in this one is a holiday planning agent. Each tool could be hitting Google Flights, Google Hotels, FileCrawl for web scraping, maybe TripAdvisor for tools. Now, these are all different services with all different response formats coming back, right? This tool can handle all of them. So there's no sort of edge case nodes you kind of have to put in to kind of, handle those responses. It's all kind of consolidated, it's all kind of the same format. Really, really powerful stuff. If you don't want to search hotels in Google Hotels, you just go for, wherever people get hotel data from, I guess. But yeah, you can see how easy it is to swap them out, which in a traditional workflow is, again, that drag of refactoring and figuring out what the response is and stuff in all these other nodes, and makes it very difficult. So that's another example. The final example is, it doesn't need to be SaaS APIs, right? It's just a HTTP request, really. But it means, anything with an API can be hooked up to your agent directly. Here we're using the Superbase, REST API, the PG REST API that they have. If you want to search products, use Elasticsearch has a HTTP API endpoint to do that. And even kind of posting HTTP requests like events to PostHog. So it can be internal, it can be external. Any and every API is going to come in to power your agent, which is super powerful. And again, you're not having these complex sub workflows to work with. It's just sort of, super, super powerful stuff. Next slide. Yeah, that's it. I want to give a huge thanks for you all for listening, and Bart and Luis for giving me the opportunity to showcase this amazing update to the NNA tools. I want to give a special shout out to Nico and Nicholas, who have been on the NNA team as well, have been reviewing and approving my AI templates. So if you didn't know, I have a creative account on the Creative Hub where I have all my experimental and really fun AI templates on there, so please check them out. I love talking about AI and NN10 and would love to know what you guys are using it for. So, you know, contact, post in the forum. I've got some long form posts in the forum, but if you want to reach out, yeah, LinkedIn and Twitter are my preferred channels. So thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jim. This was really amazing and inspiring to see how much you can achieve with so little, so few nodes. That's really cool. Let me take a real quick look at the questions that we have. So we have a couple. Simon is curious how things work under the hood. What does the HTTP tool take as its input? Can you answer that, or is that a question for the NN10 team?
That's probably for the NN team. My answer would be magic. It works, but yeah, using magic.
I'm not sure if they're still around.
Yeah, maybe I can chip in.
Yep. Cool.
So it's not using the definition of the API, like the Swagger JSON or the API schema, but rather you just provide it with the placeholders so you're hitting a specific endpoint in those tools, and you provide it with the placeholders which the AI fills, which will be sent to that endpoint. And this gives you sort of more control over what AI can do, but also gives you a nice way to manage your credentials, for example, in a secure way. But it wouldn't just be randomly firing requests. You need to set up like which request is it allowed to fire, and you describe in the placeholder what each parameter means. Hope that answered the question.
Great. Thanks, Oleg. Rusako is interested to know if this could replace tools like Crew AI. A couple of months ago, we had Derek Chung giving a demo of that as well. So if you're interested, browse back on our YouTube channel. Jim, is this something you can take? Do you have experience with Crew AI?
I don't actually have much experience with Crew AI. I mean, multiple agents kind of working together still was sort of a new thing for me. So yeah, probably not the best. But I mean, if it has the HTTP API, definitely could ping those services. Yes.
Right.
But it would also not exactly the HTTP tool, but the sub workflow tool would allow you to do like sub agents, and then you can compose them several levels deep.
Gotcha. And I guess that also answers the next question: if tools can reference other tools, right, Oleg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thanks. And then finally, Thomas asks if we have any ideas on how to combine keyword searches with semantic searches, so they're accessing different kinds of databases.
I mean, through the agent. I mean, definitely through the agent you could, but I mean, definitely depends on your use case, right? I mean, what do you want to kind of do? Is it you want to search for the product first and then search for related products? You could definitely get the agent to carry out that workflow for sure. But if you kind of want it in one API, maybe you need like a third-party service or an external service which does that. But does that answer the question?
I don't know. Thomas, does it?
Hi there. Yeah, thank you for the answer. I was thinking of an e-commerce context where you look for trousers in red and it also finds you jeans in Bordeaux, for example. There would be a semantic search. In other times, you look for an article number. And so sometimes the semantic search has the better results. Sometimes the keyword search has the better results. And I read somewhere there are ways to combine these. So you have search results from your database, search results from your vector store, and then a re-ranking takes place, and the best results are then shown as a combination of these both data sources. So I was curious if anyone has experience with that or how you would build that into the chatbot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe that requires a longer answer. I would imagine.
And maybe I can also jump in here a little bit. So some of the vector databases, like for example Weaviate, I don't think that we have an N8N connector for that. but they offer hybrid search, right? So they offer both keyword and semantic search based on embeddings, and they do that basically by having a ranking trick that retrieves both keyword based on keyword search and based on semantic search, and then re-ranks them based on their ranking in both of these lists. But so that's one way to do it. The other way, you would like add two tools to an agent that allows you to instruct maybe the agent a little bit better. Like, hey, if somebody asks something that requires a keyword search, use this tool, and otherwise use like a semantic embedding. So that's two ways to do that, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, I have a workflow of the second option that JP just mentioned. So maybe if we have a few minutes after, I can show it, which does exactly that.
Yeah, let's do that in the chat. That sounds good. Yeah. And everyone, by the way, JP here just joined the N8N team a couple of weeks ago. So it's really great to see him make his appearance here. So give him a warm welcome. Thanks, JP. Okay, Jim, thanks so much for your great example. I'm going to wrap up now. But before I do, there's one final thing I want to say. Our next Hangout will be on August 22, so put it in your calendars. And that day, we're going to be looking at at each other's work, as I mentioned in the introduction. It's going to be a workflow showcase. The crazier and the weirder and the more surprising your case, the better in this case. Everyone who participates will win one of our cool little notebooks. And yeah, you can register now. Go to n8n/community/events to find this. Go to the event, and there's a link to a form that you can use to register. I'm going to be on vacation a couple of weeks, but on August 12th, I'll be back, and then I'll go through all the entries and pick out the coolest ones and invite you to join us there. All right, so that's it for me. The end of the show. I was really glad to see so many people and such great speakers here. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, JC. Thanks, Oleg. Thanks, Jim. You're amazing. And yeah, I'm going to stop the recording now, stop the slide share, and it's time to just hang out a bit together.